What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Research Reality, where we review protest music, examining the lyrics to see how they contribute to this culture of resistance, because of course every album on the wall behind me is a protest album, a political album, a revolutionary album, and this new album from the Neighborhood Kids, Voice of the Revolution, definitely deserves a spot on this wall, because this is definitely one of the best albums I have reviewed thus far. And I know I might get a little bit of flack because just last week we reviewed the new album from Moonwalker, Wasteland Country, and that, again, was my personal most anticipated album of 2026. And while it's still an absolutely incredible album, not taking anything away from it, I've always said that hip-hop will always sort of have an edge when it comes to messaging, because with hip-hop, just with the nature of the lyrics, just the delivery, just with the flow, it's able to curate so much more information, so much more substance, and therefore what you can talk about, generally speaking, will just be a lot more thorough, a lot more detailed. It's just a lot more versatile and a lot more informative than a lot of genres tend to be. And the thing is, we're not even halfway through 2026 at time of filming, so there's bound to be other albums that pop up that will make our year-end review of the top 5 and or top 10 political albums of the year a very interesting video to make. But, as it turns out, we have another contender here with, again, the Neighborhood Kids' new album, Voice of the Revolution. If you guys have heard this album, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Also, like and subscribe if you like the vibe, and to help support protest music. And if you're feeling so inclined, definitely check out the Patreon page where we have exclusive reviews. And beyond that, guys, let's get started with track 1, Stand Tall. This track goes about asking, how is our democracy doing? Well, clearly not great, even though we have people trying to make it great again. But what period is that referring to exactly? Was it black segregation or the Reagan administration? Was it before women's suffrage, or was it during the time when we were breaking every fucking treaty with the Native Americans? But the song also deals with the day-to-day struggle of fighting against the system, which of course is a very daunting task. And there's a really good line that says, but it seems like I'm ill-equipped to deal with all of this. I can't afford the taxes that they use to kill the children with. And in the face of all of this, the song says, we're breaking the glass ceiling, we are reconnecting with our ancestors, and we are unlearning all of the lies that have been taught to us, in some cases, for generations. There's also kind of a funny line saying, who cares about the Met Gala? I only care about the people dying in Gaza, which is already a pretty hard bar, but it's just more interesting to me because this song came out prior to the Met Gala, where fucking Bezos was, and you know, we all know how that went, kind of. Again, just this giant gathering of status and wealth. And there's yet another really good line later on saying that the GOP stands for guardians of the PDF files, and that the blue isn't demonstrating the power needed to actually stand them down. Fucking accurate. The second track, titled This Is For You, is dedicated to the skaters, the taggers, really anyone who doesn't fit neatly into a box, as well as the kids who are staying away from the screens, staying away from alcohol, staying away from fentanyl, all of the shit that's stealing their hopes and means of living a better life. It's a song for the students who can't afford the rent, or even the workers out there who are only making sense, for the teacher unions, and really just anyone who is a part of this movement. It's a really uplifting song, just giving credit where credit is due, and pointing out that light at the end of the tunnel, which everybody needs to be reminded of. You know, it is there, as long as we persist. Track 3, Brainwash, is about two different things, really. It's about people themselves being brainwashed by the propaganda, by the education system, but also it's about how those in power are also kind of brainwashed by the fucking power that they possess. Those with the blood crime bloodlines, the Bush family comes to mind because they seem to always be trying to keep that tradition alive. Unintentional rhyme. God, I feel like I do that every time. I don't even feel fine. But you guys already know what it is. We're talking about the bigots. We're talking about the fascists. We're talking about people who paint imaginary lines in the sand just so that they can sell arms to various countries, have them fight each other, profit off of both sides, all while laughing at the kids who are buried under the rubble, not even a casket. But the song touches on more than just war. It also touches on healthcare, how terminally ill patients might get turned away from a healthcare system that is just completely and utterly broken. There's also a really good line about how truth is the first casualty of war, and how if they can't make you a corporate shill or a laborer, well, they will just keep taking your rights away until you get deported to ECOT, the El Salvadorian prison. The song also mentions the Bilderberg Group, so +1 for that. Again, it's an absolute fire track, and I'm only hitting like half the lines, so definitely give this album a listen if you have the time. The next track, Time to Get Free, kind of reminds me of that album Let's Get Free from Dead Prez. Here the song describes, again, that absolute ironclad grip that those in power have on the media specifically. Larry Ellison comes to mind, just buying up whatever the fuck he wants, along with the Sinclair Corporation running the same ads on every station. In other words, those corporations that dehumanize and marginalize people all in the name of profit. Because the truth is quite imperative when your American flag says made in China, or even better, your MAGA hat. And even worse, they're kidnapping people, telling them to leave when it was their ancestors in the first place that built the very city that they're being deported from. People love immigrant labor, they love immigrant food, but when it comes to the people themselves, they just don't give a fuck. Gentrify, demonize, minimize. That's the name of the game. There's also another interesting line talking about celebrating Donald Reagan, but also how they're cashing in the checks just to repossess the amendments, making freedom just an idea, not really something in practice, which is very similar to the Supreme Court saying that they are ruling on all of these cases under precedent, but there is no precedent to any of this shit. This is all just ripping up whatever came before this current Supreme Court. The Voting Rights Act comes to mind. Again, I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but there's so many fucking good lines on this album. One of them being about how presidents and prime ministers are mixing the blood of the people with the ink of their signature because they're signing off on the dotted line that will end up killing millions of people. And there's other shit about the Crusades, the 3/5 compromise, all kinds of shit. Like one of my favorites, leaving people hanging out to dry after being drenched by imperial rain. So good. Absolutely so good. Or also privatizing water lines while encouraging screen time from the labor of the Congolese amputees. Like, goddamn. So the next track, Legend of the Butterfly, is more of a dialogue, more of a story being told, and actually this is part 1. There's actually 3 parts throughout the album, but to just kind of summarize the whole concept, it's really essentially about people being trapped under rubble, but then they find a butterfly, a blue butterfly from the cover of the album. And so what the butterfly symbolizes is hope, of freedom, of a world beyond the war zone that these people find themselves living in. And ultimately, it's really up to humanity to clear away the rubble and to build that world where people are not getting buried under the rubble, where we create a foundation of love and understanding, where we essentially just make war obsolete, and therefore we're not wasting millions of lives, trillions of dollars on shit that's not really serving any purpose outside of war profiteering, resource stealing, suppressing freedom. Track 6, Who Keeps Us Safe, is really just pointing out that not all heroes wear capes. Matter of fact, most heroes actually look like you and me, just regular, average, everyday citizens. Because the thing is, nobody's coming to save us, we have to save ourselves. So we gotta take our lessons from the past and the present to better secure our future. Very much like those mothers keeping their children alive in the tents, we have to understand that hope is a necessity and keep pushing forward. And that sentiment is very similar to the next track, Rising Above. In this song, it's time for freedom, it's time for change, it's time for people to start breaking their chains. And you need to remember that some people might buckle under the pressure once the pressure is on, but we all really need to remember that the oppressed shouldn't have dreams of becoming the oppressor. Don't become what you hate, which is a very real threat. But ultimately, change comes with education. And we just gotta keep all of this in mind, really. Now, to be honest, guys, there's still so much left to this album. This is really only covering the first half. I might make the second half a Patreon exclusive, but ultimately that is the general gist of the album. There are a number of songs that have a topic, but generally speaking, they're all just making various bullet points of the shit that's going on. And the quality really doesn't diminish at all, so if you liked anything that you heard from this review, anything that sparked your interest, you're going to have a lot more substance in the second half of this album. But again, it is such a dense album, and even right now, I'm just kind of skipping over like half of the songs. There's still so much that we could talk about, but again, that's kind of why I'm just gonna end it there. Otherwise, I would be here for like 45 minutes, and nobody wants that. But the only other thing that I'm gonna mention about this album is the song that we did not get to, one that features Bambu, and Bambu, of course, is on the wall. And Bambu himself is actually the reason why I even found this album in the first place. It was just kind of recommended to me because I had been listening to him, and Bambu was actually an audience recommendation. So again, guys, if you have any songs or any artists that you think deserve a spot on this wall, definitely hit me up. That's where all of these guys came from. But clearly this album is very on point, anti-war, anti-corruption, anti-exploitation, giving thanks to the women, to the men, to the ancestors, to the children playing in the war zones, to the people protesting, trying to make a difference, to the educators, to the laborers that make the country run. Everyone's just playing their own role in this war. The war to maintain freedom, the war to have an open and free society. And with all that being said, I'm gonna say that my #1 recommended song from the album would be Time to Get Free, because really it's just an onslaught of very good lines. So if you guys only hear one song from the album, definitely check out the song Time to Get Free. Now in terms of scoring, again, this album is very dense. It has a lot to say. There's definitely a lot going on from track to track. And there's even some songs on the second half that we didn't get to that do just kind of put you down to earth. They just kind of ground you in reality, not losing sight of the bigger picture that is life. So with all that being said, I'm gonna give this album a 95%, just a solid A. Overall, excellent album. Definitely go check out the Neighborhood Kids with their new album, Voice of the Revolution, because that is exactly what this project is. So yeah, excellent album. Let me know what you guys thought of this in the comments down below. And as always, guys, stay well, stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you on the next one. Later.